The Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture, by Dr. Gabor Mate, explores the deep connections between individual well-being and societal factors, examining how the modern world influences our physical and mental health. One important part of the book focuses on the concept that much of what we consider normal in society is, in fact, deeply unhealthy and disconnected from our natural human needs. Dr. Mate argues that our culture prioritizes productivity, individualism, and competition, often at the expense of human connection, emotional expression, and holistic well-being. These values can lead to chronic stress, suppressed emotions, and a disconnect between the body and mind, contributing to various physical and psychological ailments. A key takeaway from the book is Mate's exploration of how trauma impacts health. He defines trauma not as a one-time catastrophic event, but as any experience that overwhelms a person's ability to cope, often leading to long-term emotional and physical consequences. He emphasizes that trauma is more common than we think, especially in a culture that downplays the importance of emotional well-being and interpersonal relationships. The body, Mate explains, carries the burden of unprocessed emotions, leading to illness over time. In this context, Mate stresses the importance of healing through connection both with ourselves and with others. He encourages self-awareness, emotional openness, and mindfulness as tools for healing from the effects of trauma and cultural toxicity. Mate also calls for a societal shift toward compassion, community, and authenticity as the path toward genuine health, rejecting the myth that our normal ways of living are healthy or sustainable. In The Myth of Normal, Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture by Dr. Gabor Mate, one of the key ideas revolves around how modern society's definition of normal is far from healthy. Mate explains that the pressures of contemporary life, along with cultural expectations, often disconnect us from our authentic selves. This disconnection can manifest as mental and physical illnesses, which are mistakenly seen as abnormal rather than as natural responses to the stressors of a toxic environment. One crucial part of the book discusses the relationship between trauma and illness. Mate argues that unresolved trauma, whether it's from childhood or later in life, gets stored in the body and often leads to chronic diseases like autoimmune disorders, depression, anxiety, and more. He emphasizes that trauma doesn't necessarily have to come from dramatic events like abuse, it can also stem from emotional neglect, feeling unloved, or societal pressures to conform. Mate also highlights how our culture perpetuates the myth that if people are sick, the issue is solely biological or psychological and requires medical intervention. In contrast, he argues that the root cause often lies in the environment: social, emotional, and familial. One of the most important takeaways from the book is the idea that healing requires reconnecting with the self. This involves acknowledging and addressing trauma, rather than just treating symptoms. Mate advocates for a holistic approach to health, one that looks at the entirety of a person's experiences, environment, and emotional life. He believes that real healing and well-being come from nurturing our emotional and physical health in a balanced, self-compassionate way. This insight challenges the myth that modern societal norms and expectations are a healthy benchmark for living.